This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome everyone. I am joined here by Jonah and Josh, who are also organizers for this hackathon, together with three of our sponsors, Object First, Wasabi, and Progress Software. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Maurice, and we are here for our halftime show, Extravaganza.
Like Maurice said, we're here. We'll have some words from our sponsors, and we'll have some fun and some mid-event feedback too to improve for next year.
Yeah. So we'll start first with a small segue from our sponsors. We want to thank Wasabi, Object First, and Progress, obviously, who will have more time to speak about each of their contributions to our hackathon during this show. But also, if you can go to our next slide, 1111 Systems, GitHub, and Different Dev, who all three sponsor as well in different ways. 1111 helped us with some of the labs. GitHub provided us with a GitHub Enterprise for the whole Git organization during the event, and Different Dev helped us with some other small things. Unfortunately, Tom will not be joining us. I just got a message that he is juggling some projects at work.
All right, so now on to our agenda. We just had our quick welcome. We're wrapping that up. And in a second here, we'll be punting over to Object First and then Wasabi before we circle back to talk a little bit about how the event is going so far. Before hearing from Progress, we'll ask each team to give a quick teaser of their project that they're working on before we'll have a fun little Kahoot quiz for everybody at the end.
And then obviously we end with questions if there are. So let's start with Object First.
Hey everybody, Jeff Burke. This is the halftime show. I know you expect halftime show like Beyonce or big extravaganza dancing. You got me, unfortunately. But I'm going to talk about Object First, and I'm going to share a. Oh, you have to make me a presenter. There we go.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
There we go. Yeah. So I'm just going to share. What am I going to share? I'm going to share this, and this I'm going to have to speed this up because I've got 15 minutes. So my name's Jeff Burke. I'm community manager and now DevOps specialist at at Object First. I'm a Veeam Vanguard and Veeam Legend, and today I'm going to tell you about Object First, what we have and what we're offering. So Object First, or the OOPB appliance, first of all, people ask what does it stand for, and it stands for out of the box immutability. Okay, it's secure, simple, and powerful. So when I say secure, you don't have to do anything to set it up. It's immutable right from the get-go, and there's zero access to root. It's simple. It should take 15 minutes to deploy and scale, unless you take a lot of coffee breaks, and powerful. So you get up to 4 gigabits per second on a 4-node system, for instance. Ransomware proof. Okay, so if we look at the history of storage and some of the storage that I dealt with in the past, we can see that, for instance, I started to deal with DAS. I had NTFS repositories and then later REFS repositories on the same box as VBR. Simple, powerful, but obviously wasn't secure because very soon, 2015, 2016, started to see customers getting encrypted VBR servers. Okay, DDoS appliances. Okay, very good at squishing the data. Secure, it depends. Different vendors have different techniques of securing, so it's question mark. Simple, the only reason I call it not simple is you can't just create a default Veeam job and run it for it to be most efficient. You have to do certain things. For instance, in the old days, and maybe still now, you had to have an active full once in a while, and you had to remove Veeam deduplication. You want to double that up. Powerful, again, depended on the type. So hard Linux repository, which is now called the Veeam hardened repository. Secure, so question mark, and I put that up there because there's two ways of doing it. There's the ISO from Veeam you can use, or you can build your own. And then the question is, it's on you, right? So whether it's secure or not, do you change anything? It's in your power to do so. So yes, it should be secure. But again, I know myself, back in my wild days, I experiment a bit, turn things on and off. So that has to be a question mark because it's you who's making it secure or not. Simple. I think if you've done a lot of Linux, it's relatively simple if you're using the ISO. Perhaps the more complicated task comes on day 2 when you have to do things updates. You have to have a system for that, scaling it. So again, a question mark there, or even an X, depending on your experience. Powerful, yes, it can be powerful. When it comes to UTB, so get all the check marks. Why? Well, secure because you get it, it's set up and done. You don't change anything with the security. You can't change anything with the security. Simple, you don't need to know Linux. You can just plug it in and create your jobs in Veeam, default jobs. So you can just do create backup, set it up, and it's going to run at its optimal level of performance. And powerful. A number of reasons for that I'll talk about. Okay, so a typical setup here is, let's say you got your Veeam backup, you've got your primary target as object first, and then of course you want to follow the 3-2-1 rule. Now I know they've changed that, it's 3-2-1-0-0, whatever, but the original one was 3-2-1, and that means that you definitely need a component off-site. That's just a necessity. When I first started doing Veeam, everything was on-site, and then we started to send tapes away, and eventually we started to use off-site. And for that, you can use various things. If you've got another data center somewhere far away, you could have another UPI, but you can also, of course, use AWS, Azure, Wasabi, Backblaze, or any of those for your long-term retention and for your extra protection. Okay, if your data center gets blown up or something, or there's a flood, hurricane, you want to have that off-site. So why object storage? Well, object storage, Veeam themselves say that this is really the storage of the future. You got native lock, that's their object native lock, it's native for S3. It scales very well, horizontal scalability. And like, what's that mean? Well, if you go into your S3 browser, you're going to see like different folders, right? But in reality, it doesn't exist in object. That's just for us to see. It's all flat and makes it very scalable, very much easier to deal with, especially when you're dealing with a lot of data. So you don't have the traditional limitations of file systems. So that's one thing with the Veeam hardened repository, which it is on an XFS, right? So it is excellent, but it is that, I wouldn't say old school, but it's not the new object storage. Reliability, and it natively solves with Veeam the 3-2-1 rule. So Veeam are saying you must have the 3-2-1 rule. That's the way they want you to have high availability. Now, another really important component of this is the SOS API. And what is this? And I can tell you a quick story of one of the important aspects of this. When I first set up S3, I was with a service provider, and we leveraged right away capacity tier. That was the only way you could add it back then in a scale-out repository. And we did it, it was great. And then accounts came and said, okay, great. How much do we have on the capacity tier in S3? And I looked, I see NA, which doesn't mean North America, it means not available, right? Because the protocol didn't have that information. So one of the important things that Veeam have added in this SOS API is capacity space visibility. So that's one thing you'll notice right away in the Veeam console. You will actually see a number there now. And that's important. And some vendors will say, okay, we support SOS API, and they only support that, which is good. But there's more to SOS API. There's the storage access control. Caching control is exposed to Veeam. Veeam knows about the caching. Breaks up large jobs into smart entities for smart placement. Now, what does that mean? The first time I heard that, smart placement, think of this way. You've got a big backup job with a lot of VMs in it, okay? SOS API allows each VM, in that case, to be a smart entity, and it can place it in, for instance, an UPI cluster in different locations and know exactly where it is. So if, for instance, you want to do an instant recovery, a fast instant recovery, when you go to UPI, it's not going to go and query a database, okay, where is this, or rebuild the erasure coding, find where it is. It'll know exactly on what node that smart entity is. So you're cutting out a lot of extra cycles. And I'll talk about the amount of instant recoveries you can do at the same time, which kind of prove that point. Storage managed network access and load balancing. So again, Veeam is aware of all this. Okay, a little bit of a repetition. I'll go through quickly. It's 15 minutes. Hardened Linux OS. Storage by default, leveraging native S3 object lock. And Veeam encryption coupled with immutability provide unbreakable survivability during data breaches. Now, it's very important that you obviously encrypt your Veeam backups. It's essential because you can just have a backup job and not have encrypted, or a backup copy job, but that kind of defeats your purpose, right? All right, simple. Basically, you get this when you log in, that little TUI, limited commands you can do to set it up, but very simple. And then later you'll be presented with a web UI, something similar to what you see higher up there. Okay, very important point here. by default, it can use Veeam's 1 megabyte block recommendation, okay? And that is important because it's not a question of bad or good or people do things well or badly. A lot of other vendors are trying to do a lot of things for a lot of people, right? So they're not just Veeam focused. They're doing file storage. They're doing, maybe some database storage or Kubernetes storage. I've seen some, and that's great. But the problem is when you're trying to do a lot of things for a lot of different people, you have to make compromises. One of the problems that some of the other vendors have is that because the amount of API calls that Veeam requires for its use of S3, they recommend to increase that block size to 4 to 8. Problem with that, though, is that then your incrementals will increase 4 to 8. And as the chain gets older and goes on longer, problems can arise because of the extra bloat. So Veeam want you to use 1 megabyte blocks because that's what works best. And that's what, in a proof of concept, they'll show Veeam working at most powerful. By default, that's what UTB uses and works perfectly with it. So that's a very important point. UTB only works with Veeam. I mean, it's S3 storage, so you could use it for anything, but it's been designed specifically for Veeam. Okay, powerful, 1 gigabits per second data ingest per node. So if you have 4-node cluster before, up to 20 instant recovery VMs per node. Now, I'm not going to lie, that's not 20, MySQL databases or SQL databases with tons of transactions happening at the same time, obviously, but 20 file servers or whatnot can work. That's been tested. No metadata database bottleneck. So that's a problem with storage that needs metadata to know where things are. So as opposed to the smart entity placement, it takes time for it to collect its brains and to say, okay, everything's here, collect it. So we don't have that. And no unnecessary hops. Okay, so what's in the box? So you got some NVMe flash cache, which is leveraged, RAID 6 array, 10 disk, 1 spare, dual NICs, 10 gigabits per second, and a hardened Linux OS. Okay, so again, we're talking about a Linux operating system, obviously, which has been hardened, which you do not have access to. You cannot get a command line there. So how does UTB work? Very quick demonstration here. You got your physical or virtual, Veeam backup, replication, and then the SOS management communications going to the cluster and your movements taking place here. One caveat here on this slide shows M365. UTB works with that fine, but M365 does not yet support SOS API. It's coming. So obviously the performance isn't as good as it will be eventually when they when they bring in SOS API. So to give you an example about the load balancing in the cluster, if you have one node, you start out and you got your VM there, your bucket in the VM, your VMs in the bucket, and then you add another one. So you're growing organization, you buy another one, bring it in, automatically UTB will start to load balance this, right? So 3, same thing. I didn't do this little design, but I really like it because pressing the button and it just, in real life, when I used to do repositories, that never happened. They didn't have load rebalancing and scale outs back when I was doing them. All right, so again, designed specifically for Veeam, built specifically, but decoupled from Veeam. Now you say, what is decoupled? It sounds like some kind of a relationship problem. Well, no. Veeam now, their philosophy is called Zero Trust Data Resilience. And what does this mean? It means that there's a few tenets of Zero Trust which are very important for data protection. One of them being assume breach, okay? Now, if you told me that 5 years ago, so I'm gonna go to my boss and say, hey, I'm building data protection, I'm gonna assume breach, I'd be fired, right? But after all the problems we've had for ransomware, we now realize that we have to build our environments assuming we're going to be hacked. It's going to happen. So the other component of data, zero trust data protection, data resilience, is segmentation. Okay. If you're assuming breach, then you need to segment your elements so that one area gets hit, the VBR server, something like that. You still have the other secured area. And what does that mean when you say segmentation? Well, your storage is no longer in the same location as Veeam, obviously, like I used to do way back in the day. But also, you want to limit the attack surface as much as possible. And limiting the attack surface means putting as minimal amount of code on your repository as possible. No data mover, nothing like that. The more you put into a system, the more you're widening the attack surface. I remember when Microsoft brought out Core and they said, hey, we're reducing the attack surface by removing the desktop experience. Of course, Linux and Unix have been doing that for years, but anyways. So hardened by default, standardized protocols. So Veeam have not changed the default SOS protocol. The SOS API is an add-on. So it's not something they've changed inside the code. Deploy in 15 minutes, monitored, maintained, and optimized by the vendor. Now, this is what I would have loved to have had 5 years ago when I was trying to handle like 15 repositories. Back then, it was a challenge. Now it would be a challenge with also the caveat of I'm responsible if anything happens, which I wouldn't want now. So I don't want to build my own repository. We get hit by ransomware, and guess what? Who can we blame? Oh, it's Jeff. I don't want that anymore. So by getting an UPI, I can say, look, they handle monitoring, they maintain it, and they optimize it, and they watch the security. So if a bug comes out, like recently a vulnerability for OpenSSH came out, a retro one. So it was one that had been in the past, an update came out, and it was reintroduced. So that's their problem. Object first problem, they need to deal with that. I don't want 50 repositories having that headache. Okay, and the other things we've seen, I'll skip here because I've said them before. So I don't know if I've done my 15 minutes or not. I've done too little, but if you want to know more, here's a QR code. And yeah, that's about it for me, my speedy halftime show. So it was like a Beyonce dance, really quick, right?
Jeff, there is one question in the chat. Is
Sure.
SFP 28 planned from Chalit, I think, if I pronounce it correctly?
So I'd have to ask about that right now. The roadmap right now and information for what's coming in the future is going to come out closer to the end of the year. So I'll have to ask about it. Let me, if you put your email in the chat, or not in the chat, if you can give it to the organizers, I can answer that. I'll write it down here so I don't forget. I'll say
it. Okay, then we'll move over to Wasabi. And I think, yeah, Nelly?
Yep, cool.
Let me make you a presenter real quick. Make presenter, yes.
Cool. Excellent. Am I sharing the right one?
I'm seeing a Wasabi hot cloud storage.
There we go. All good. Excellent. So yeah, again, I'm not much of a halftime dancer, but we'll do our best. So my name's Neil Simpkins, or Nelly. You might have heard Maurice call me Nelly. It's a long story, goes back to my EMC days, but I'm quite often called Nelly by customers and partners and everyone.
Which it's in your name, so I assumed.
It's in my name, yeah, absolutely, yeah. My real name is Neil, although it's spelled a bit strange. It's actually Neil. You can get me at neil@wasabi.com. Quite happy to take any emails. Also, I've got a blog, nellybyte.com. It's just Wasabi stuff. It's all demo videos and stuff like that. So you can have a look at nellybyte.com. If you really like my face after this and you think, you know what, I'd love to see that guy again, you can always go to nellybyte.com. So some of you may have heard of Wasabi, some not. I'm going to do a basic kind of overview of what Wasabi is, where we came from, maybe a bit about where we're going as well through our data centers. So the mission for Wasabi is low price, high performance, secure object storage. That's all we do. Well, it's not quite all we do. We do a few more things. They're not really relevant for today. We've stepped into the AI kind of market. We do some stuff around NAS tiering and things like that. But primarily, we are S3 object storage in the cloud. We always get asked, are you going to step into do compute, or are you going to do anything else? Do you know, at the moment, we don't need to. We've grown so fast in 7 years that at the moment, we're just concentrating on what we're doing. When we launched Wasabi, people kind of went, what are you doing? We went, well, we're opening a object storage platform and we're going to go after AWS and Microsoft and Google. And they all went, you're absolutely crazy. That's never going to work. Get back in your box. Here we are, 7 years later, 2 exabytes of data stored across the planet, 95,000 customers, 13 storage regions, and growing like crazy year over year. We're going to go into the storage regions in a bit, and we'll kind of talk about the expansion and where we're potentially looking to expand. And yet we are, when it says multiple exabytes, we're just under 2, to be honest with you, of actually stored data globally. And we've got about 2.9 exabytes of capability. So that's how much storage space we've got. So obviously we've still got 900 petabytes to grow into before we upgrade our various data centers globally. So there are 3 main pillars of Wasabi. price, performance, and protection, and some will mean more to some people and some will mean more to others. Certainly when we're talking to CFOs, price, that's a great one. You'll see there 80% less than AWS, and we'll go into that in a minute. Performance, I'm not already going to talk about today, but we do have performance metrics around Wasabi, different blocks being thrown at us and proving that we are just as fast, if not faster than the competition. And protection, that's a very, very big one for the IT guys. They want to understand that if they're giving their data to us, that we're actually looking after it. It's not, a server running in my garage. It's actually a proper infrastructure running somewhere that's going to really, really reliably look after their data. So protection is our third platform, our third column, our third pillar, and we'll just briefly talk about that in a few slides later on as well. So when we set Wasabi up, one, I said, we want to go after those S3 customers, but the guys that set Wasabi up said, well, that we need to make ourselves different. We need to make, if we just say we're object storage and we're charging for all these things like everybody else does, we're not going to get anywhere. So David and Jeff, who set up Wasabi, said, right, well, what is it that people who are currently using object storage don't like? And when they talk to customers, the one thing they always hated was the unpredictable pricing. Yes, Mr. Customer, here's a price for storing your data, and you can pay that. You can pay that upfront for 3 years. That's fine. But there will be this random monthly charge. Can you tell me what that charge is going to be? No, I can't. It will depend on many, many factors. And that's what the customers hated. They hated that they would get a random monthly bill. And it was all around the API fees, the egress charges, the retrieval fees, tiering fees, different fees for different peers, on net transfer charges. I mean, if you've ever seen a bill from a hyperscaler, they're huge. And something that Jeff pointed out a second ago was the 1 meg. The great write size for a lot of things actually. Now, generally, 1 meg is 1 API. And you go, okay, interesting. So you think of a customer that might be storing petabytes and petabytes of data, that is millions and millions of API calls. And if they're cataloging, again, every time they do a catalog, it's millions of API calls. And each one of these things with our competitors are absolutely chargeable items. So when David and Jeff set up with Wasabi, they went, look, we want a service that's just as secure, just as fast, and we're going to not charge those items. And that's exactly what they did. So they sat around for a couple of years working out how they were going to do it. And then they opened our first data center in Virginia, launched it to the world, and the world went, what do you mean you're not charging for egress or API or any of these other things? And we just went, we're not. It's a set flat fee per terabyte, and that's all you're going to pay. There is nothing else. And we proved it. You can talk to any of our customers. It is absolutely true. There are no other fees outside of the data that you're storing. And yes, they are kind of marketing-y slides here on the right. But if you work it out, if you take a petabyte of storage with 20% egress over a year, we do work out roughly 80% cheaper than the big boys. The number you'll see on the top here, the $6.99, that is our absolute maximum price. That's what we call our pay-go price. So if you rock up to our website with a credit card, that's the price you're going to get. But we do offer reserved capacity storage, and it's a basic economies of scale purchasing model. The more Wasabi you take out over the longer period, the more discount we give you off of that storage. So those are the two ways you can consume Wasabi: pay-go credit card in the website, or reserve capacity, which most of our large enterprise customers do. You take out a capacity over a certain amount of time, and you'll get discounts off of that capacity. So this is a great slide. When I'm talking to CFOs, I'm going in, they see this and they just go, wow, who are we with currently? And the IT guy goes, AWS. And they go, right, I like this. Let's talk about this a bit more. So talking about the no egress and no API, Jeff talked about the 3-2-1, and it's been the Veeam rule for a long time. 3 copies of your data: your live copy, your backup copy, and a copy of your backup data, probably. 2 different media, disk, maybe tape. Tape was great, tape was cheap, but you only had to look at a tape in a funny way and it corrupted itself. They didn't like being looked at, they didn't like being got hot, cold, magnets, all sorts of stuff could corrupt tapes. And one off-site copy. Yeah, always great to have an off-site copy. And that was generally the tape copy. You know, that was your, give it to Iron Mountain, truck comes along, give them the tapes, off they go. You want to do a restore, talk to Iron Mountain. You may get a tape back, you may get two, you may get something back, whoever knows. Anyway, then, you know, a few years ago, the additional 1.0 came out. And this is, you can see exactly where Wasabi sits in really well with this 1.0. One copy of data, which is either offline, air-gapped, or immutable. So Wasabi offers that immutable storage layer. So we use object lock to lock the data so it cannot be attacked by ransomware. And it's absolute immutability. We have had problems where people have gone, do you know what? I stuck 99 years on the bucket to see what would happen, and I don't want that data anymore. Can you delete it, Wasabi? It's immutable. That's why it's immutable. It cannot be changed by anybody or altered. The only way we can destroy that data is to destroy your whole storage account and start again. So that's the first zero. The second one, and then the zero. And this to me is the zero is really important. I've been in this industry for 30 years. And, you know, when people were backing up on premises, it was easy. Hey, have you done a test restore? Yes. Okay, no problem. Great. How did it go? Yeah, it was okay, not too bad. With cloud, that changed because of the egress and the API fees that people got. So when they were backing up to cloud and I talk to customers, I go, oh, do you do DR testing? Do you make sure that you can actually recover from your backups? And half the time they go, yeah, we don't do it as much as we should. Why not? Because we get charged for it. Ah, okay. Well, with us, you won't. So you can do those DR tests. You can get your run books in place. That's something else I talk about a lot with customers, which is an interesting one. Is okay. You've got Wasabi, or you're in place, and you can do your test backups. Have you got your run book in place? And the number of customers go, what's the run book? And I go, right. If you get hit with ransomware and you have to recover your whole environment, how are you going to do it? And then they sit around the conference table and they go, what should we bring up first? The main controller or VBR server, or which order should we do it? What do we have to do? That's the whole idea of a run book. Do your testing, do your zero, make sure you can do your disaster recovery testing, and then document it. So you know when you do get hit, you've got your steps ready to go to get your infrastructure up and running as fast as possible. Obviously, don't document it in a Word document and put it on the storage array, because that's already been corrupted by the ransomware attackers anyway, and you're not going to be able to read it. Document it, print it out, put it in a file, put it in the safe, if people still have safes. But there we go. So we do at Wasabi, we do really follow the 3-2-1-1-0 rule, and I think this was coined by Veeam. Veeam guy can nod their head if that's true or not, but I believe the whole 3-2-1-1-0 was coined by Veeam. So I've talked about price. We'll talk a little bit about protection now. I'm 9 minutes in, so you've only got 5 more minutes of me, so don't worry too much. So under the covers, we have to make sure that we're looking after your data. So we offer 11 nines of data durability. We can get deep down and dirty if you want to on how the RAID sets and everything work under the covers. But I am correct. I do have 5 minutes left. Yeah, is that good? Okay, yes. That's right. I saw you had 1 minute left. I was about to speed up even faster.
No, I mixed up time. Sorry.
No worries. That's cool. So yeah. So 11 nines of durability. Basically, we chop up the data. We have multiple RAID sets, Kubernetes, lots of other fun stuff running under the covers to make sure that we have multiple copies of your data throughout our infrastructure, so that if we do lose disks or do lose servers, which we're running 650,000 spinning drives globally. Some of them do eventually wear out, so we need to make sure that when those hardware items do fail, that we still have data durability. Also, we need to make sure that we can scale way beyond 2 exabytes. We have to keep scaling as we keep growing. With any kind of cloud storage provider, we've got all the functions that you would expect. So IAM, for identity and access management, at-rest encryption, multi-factor authentication, multi-user authentication is an interesting one that came out last year, and that's basically a nuclear key option. So it stops attack from inside. If someone inside goes, do you know what, I've fallen out with the company, I'm going to go in and delete all those buckets, delete the Wasabi storage account. It won't let them do it. It's a way that you add in security contacts, and if you try and delete a bucket, it'll ping the security contacts an email going, hey, do you know what? This person's trying to delete these buckets. Do you agree to it or not? And if they don't agree, then it doesn't happen. And immutability, that's very important. Jeff talked about that with Object First, and we offer it as well with Veeam. So the ability to enable object lock on the bucket, and then when you're in Veeam and you create the repository, you put the little tick in the box. It says, I want my backups immutable for a certain number of days. As I said, it is compliance level immutability, so those backups cannot be altered by anyone. You can get hit on premises, they can scramble everything else, you know, get into your SAN, get into all your servers, but they cannot change or alter your immutable object lock backups. So 3 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left. So globally, we've got 13 data centers, 4 in America, 1 up in Canada. The other side of the world, APAC, we've got 2 in Japan, 1 in Singapore and 1 in Sydney. And then in EMEA, my region, we've got London, Amsterdam, Paris, Frankfurt and Milan. Milan's literally just come live. It was live 3 weeks ago. And that's roughly our just under 3 exabytes of available data across the planet. We always look for new sites. You can see down here coming soon, we are building a second London DC. Obviously London, we kind of floated away from Europe a bit a few years ago, which has upset them. So we are going to build a second DC in London, in the UK, so we can replicate between 2 data centers. We're also part of GovCloud in the States, the FedRAMP. We passed our FedRAMP certification, so we do have 2 GovCloud secret squirrel data centers hidden in mountains in Virginia and Colorado as well. We do look for new ones. There's a kind of big push around South Africa at the moment to get a storage region out there, potentially the Middle East as well. We're talking to a lot of guys out there, and also the Nordics as well. But you will see over the next 2 or 3 years, certainly a lot more data centers popping up globally. So people that want to move data into Wasabi, we've got a few options here. The first one is the Cloud Sync Manager. So this is to migrate buckets from other storage providers into Wasabi. It's built into the product itself. You just log in, you connect it into your current storage provider, whether that's AWS or, you know, Google, or, you know, if it's someone like Backblaze with an internet-facing connection, someone like that. And we can just migrate that data out, and we do it a lot with Veeam data. In fact, Veeam is one of the better backup products I found for moving a backup set and then reconnecting it. Some of the other backup vendors that we work with, it just doesn't really work at all. We move the backup set and the backup application just goes, yeah, I don't know what that is, I'm not going to play with it. And the other thing we can offer is direct connect. So we partner with lots of different global network providers like Equinix Fabric, like Megaport Fabric, Console Connect, and also the hyperscaler express routes. So if a customer does want their own dedicated 1, 10 or 100 gig connection, we can actually facilitate that directly into our data centers. And that is the end of me, and I think I've got 10 seconds left, so I've done quite well. So yeah, there it is again, neil@wasabi.com, or you can get my blog on nellywhite.com.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Was there any questions while we were going along? I saw the...
No, I saw no questions in the chat.
Perfect. There may be some later on. That's cool. I'm hanging about anyway.
So next thing is our mid-event feedback. It's not really mid-event, but we are halfway through, or somewhat halfway through the event at least.
It's not even really a halftime show if you want to get technical.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to do this at the exact halftime, because a lot of people who are participating in the event probably will be sleeping on the Saturday morning, early morning.
I know I will be.
Anyway, sorry?
I know I will be.
It's not your Saturday morning. I think it's still your Friday evening,
Oh.
technically then.
Well, I'll be unwinding after a VMCA exam then.
Yeah. I want to ask if any of the people here in the chat do have any feedback halfway through the event. And if so, please, you're allowed to unmute yourself or just type it in chat if that makes you feel more comfortable.
We'll also have some surveys going out after the event ends.
True. So if you're not okay with sharing publicly, you can do that after the event in our survey as well. That's completely anonymous. So while we're waiting, I do think that Team 2 and Team 4 are currently on a really great start, and I see really, really nice things coming up from both teams. So I really like what they are doing so far. And I do not see any messages coming into chat. So I think there are no questions currently. Then no, we're not at project teasers yet.
No,
We are
yeah,
going
you're
to
right.
Frank and progress for his presentation. Frank, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Good. Then I'll make you a presenter right now.
Okay,
Perfect. I see your screen.
fantastic. And it's the PowerPoint presentation?
I'm seeing maximize cyber resilience. So I think we are on the good one.
Fantastic. Yes, you are. Are we ready to kick off, or did you want to wait for more of those questions coming in?
No, go ahead.
All right, fantastic. So Frank Cotto, Principal Solutions Architect here at Progress Software. And today we just want to take this 15-minute slot to tell you a little bit about what we've done recently with Veeam in order to kind of tie our network detection and response capabilities with Veeam backup and replication from a security perspective, right? And so we'll dive right in here, and I probably will come in under the 15 minutes, but let's see. I usually say that and never make it, but here's the hoping, right? So first off, let me tell you a little bit about what Flowmon is. I'm going to tell you about what Flowmon is. We're going to go into a little bit around the why we've integrated and partnered with Veeam. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the kind of how and how it works. And we'll dig in, but not too deep, right? So with that said, Flowmon is a full network detection response platform, as well as a network monitoring, performance, and diagnostic platform. That said, the primary focus of the integration and the use case for which we are implemented with Veeam revolves around our AI-powered network detection and response utility. And I love the vernacular here, right? Progress Flowmon being a AI-powered network security analyst delivered as software, right? So with that said, when it comes down to detection of any threat actor movements, exploits inside of the environment, we take primarily a signatureless approach, so we do involve some signatures in the product. We are able to detect the threat actor's movements at the earliest possible point, and I'll tell you in a moment how we do that. But having that built-in security analyst experience with the product, the ability to automate analytics and prioritize visibility and action, all caters to our one goal, and the goal there is to detect as fast as possible threat actor movements in the environment and to respond as fast as possible, whether that is to enable our users or integrated solutions to respond, or it is an automated action like you're going to see with what we've done with Veeam. All right, so kind of moving along here, let me just tell you a little bit about how Flowmon anomaly detection system works, right? So basically, the 240 plus individual algorithms and methods that you see referenced in the center of your screen can all be organized into the buckets per se that you see on the left side of your screen, right? Machine learning, adaptive baselining, heuristics, behavioral patterns, reputational data. And the idea there is we use a mixture of all of those solution sets, right? So tying in machine learning with adaptive baseline, behavioral patterns, heuristics, and so on and so forth enables us to essentially baseline and identify the initial movements of a threat actor once they get into the network, right? So we are a network-centric solution. We essentially ingest the traffic from the network, and we analyze that traffic after it's been converted to flow by our Flowmon Probe solution, right? The idea there is the network is the single source of truth, right? If an exploit occurs or if a threat actor is present, they are present on the network, and that's where we sit and to monitor, right? And so the response aspect of it enables us to integrate with solution sets that contribute to the security architecture, right? We, for one, believe that Veeam backup and replication is a fantastic vantage point for executing security remediations and actions, right? And so what have we done, right? If you take a look at the Veeam data platform, Progress Flowmon fits into the monitoring and analytics bucket, and has done so with our ability to directly integrate with the Instant API. So we are Veeam ready in the security space, and we provide insights directly into the Veeam Instant API based on what we've monitored on the network, as well as what we've provided from a forensics perspective, right? Now, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to understand from that perspective, but I completely understand how that's very high level as a comment. And we will go into what that looks like in just a moment. But before we go into what it looks like, let's have a fun moment. Being, of course, a presenter of a security solution, you know the statistics were coming, right? But with that said, having gone through the latest IBM Cost of Data Breach Report, the 2024 version, I extracted some key elements that directly relate to what we're doing with Veeam and how we can kind of contribute to customer security architectures, right? And so this is just some really interesting statistics that I wanted to highlight for you, right? And not too many of them, but 252 days is still the time it takes to identify and contain a breach, right? But this specific statistic correlates to 0-day breaches. Well, why am I pointing that out, right? Because Flowmon is a network detection and response tool that doesn't depend on signatures to detect threat actors, which means for 0-day attacks, right? For an attack that doesn't have a signature, we can still identify and call out the threat actor, which is fantastic. And so we take this 252-day category and minimize it significantly, right? So you're talking 183 days it has taken organizations to detect 0-day breaches in their environment. I mean, that is insane if you really just sit back and think about it from the mental health of a security architect, right? But 69 days is how long it took to contain that breach. In a moment, you're going to see how Flowmon, right, identifies the breach and automatically sends that information over to Veeam so that Veeam backup admin has full insights into what devices were breached. And everyone on this call and in this hackathon knows that that restore that can occur from Veeam will ultimately remediate that. If we can tag which actual backups were malicious, then we know which weren't, right? And we can restore it to a healthy point. I mean, that 69 days is completely diminished by our partnership, right? Another cool statistic here, right? 5.1 million is the average breach cost due to significant disruption. I mean, business disruption, right? Having the business-centric utilities and services go down in an organization is something that Veeam tackles, right? With the ability to back up and restore instantly and quickly. So now you take that from 5.1 million to 4.63, and you pay for your Flowmon architecture. No, just kidding. It's the gap is significant, right? 7.9% higher cost when disruption was greater, right? And then lastly here, man, this is a scary statistic, right? So they run these stats, they do these customer interviews for the Cost of Data Breach Report, and then they come back, I believe, someone like a year later, right? So 88% of organizations queried say they still had not fully recovered. That is just wild. That's the sort of thing that keeps security architects up at night, and that's the sort of thing that keeps me positioning these products, right? With that said, when only 12% of organizations have fully recovered, I would say not enough organizations are leveraging Veeam's security capabilities along with the integrations that they've published with Flowmon and others, right? So some really cool and interesting statistics there. So let me tell you how it works. And we're going to go through it in a very simple, easy to understand way. And then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into the architecture. And so here's what it comes down to, right? Flowmon is monitoring the network traffic generated by all of the devices that Veeam is backing up and replicating, right? Whether that be client PCs or servers, whether that be in virtual infrastructures or not, doesn't matter. Flowmon can monitor all of that network traffic. And at the end of the day, right, whether an attack is a external attack coming in, like a ransomware attack or a data exfiltration or a cryptocurrency mining supply chain attack, or if it's a internal actor, right, that's actually carrying out an exploit, plugging in a USB stick into a device and then generating some traffic. At the end of the day, that malware infected device is going to generate network traffic, right? The attacker's goal is not to get solely what that device has. That device is an entry point into the network. Right? They have to identify and find the very valuable resources in the network. And so ultimately what happens is that network traffic, as that threat actor traverses the network, they are discovered by the devices monitoring the network, like Flowmon, right? Flowmon is going to alert to the presence of that traffic and then send that alert in a instant API action right to Veeam. And the reality there is now the backup admin has the full power and information that they need, not only to trigger an action or act, right, but to know exactly how to act, right, which backups to restore to. And of course they do, and once they do, everything is back to normal. This is an oversimplified approach. I completely understand. And so here is your more detailed architecture, right? When it comes down to it, right, there are two main components of the Flowmon architecture, right? The Flowmon collector and the Flowmon probe. The Flowmon probe is connecting into your network environment, whether that be as a virtual variant or a hardware variant, whether it be our cloud component, right? We do support hybrid architectures. And its primary job is to extract the packets, or rather analyze the packets that are being mirrored to it, extract key information with specific protocols that we support, your HTTP, SIP, DNS, TLS, right? S3 falls into that bucket, right? And then runs its intelligence against that traffic after it's been converted to flow. So the probe takes those packets, it does a DPAC inspection, it does network performance metric calculations, converts it to flow, which is extremely lightweight, right? 250 to 500 times lighter weight than packet, and then stores it on the collector. And the collector is where all of the processing and the magic occurs. It's where anomaly detection system is running. It's where our integrations are deployed and configured. And ultimately here, right, as we're monitoring all that traffic, Veeam at the same time is backing up all of those devices. So understanding, right, intrinsically, which of the devices that Veeam is responsible for backing up is causing malicious traffic is essential, right? You don't want to proliferate the malware data, right? At the end of the day, there are utilities that can scan the backup, right? But if that is a sophisticated attacker, for example, a malware on the device that is generating the early signs of that traffic, they need to know that. They need to know that so that they know intrinsically that this device needs to be attended to or restored to a healthy point. And that's essentially what we do, right? The red line across the middle of your screen is us reaching out to Veeam and providing that notification. Now, there are options in the Instant API where that you can run a backup immediately, right, for that specific device. You can enable that, and that just adds to the ability to ensure your recovery points are accessible and able to restore services, right? And so, of course, we also have an additional kind of integration workflow here that essentially does the same thing. Here you see Flowmon detecting two machines in the environment, generating malicious data, and simply alerting to Veeam. The reason why I wanted to also give you this integration flow, as if we didn't have enough on this presentation, was because you also have to realize that the automated response is not a single action, right? We can, of course, alert Veeam, right, and the backup admins to that infected device, but we could also send an alert to the SecOps team. We can send a log to the SIEM or SOAR. The future of security resilience, right, from an architectural perspective, hinges on the ability for security tools to talk to one another and work with one another. At the end of the day, human response will always be slower than automated response. And in the age of AI, maybe that's not a popular comment to put out there, but that's just a reality we have to deal with. The more efficiently our tools can work together, the quicker that we can identify threat actors' presence inside of an environment and ultimately diminish the cost of a data breach, right? So I think I do have some more time here, so I'll show you quickly from a screenshot perspective what this looks like, right? So what you're looking at here is a Flowmon console, right? Inside the Flowmon anomaly detection system, this is an event that has been triggered. We've configured the integration already where that Flowmon has the ability to speak to the Veeam Incident API and is monitoring traffic generated by devices that it's backing up. This device so happens to be one of those devices, right? So it can see a TCP SYN scan, right? Now, a threat actor gets into an environment, the first thing that they have to go through is the discovery phase, whether that be by an ARP scan or a TCP scan, whether that be by lateral movement or traversing the network or running a dictionary attack against different devices in the environment. That discovery phase can be detected by Flowmon. And so you see here, we're discovering a TCP SYN scan where previous to this, the threat actor ran an ARP scan, knows the devices that are on the network or the network schema, and understands that it needs to touch on these devices to ensure what services are running, right? Ultimately, Flowmon detects this and sends this data over to Veeam, right? Very simply, in the Veeam console, what you can now see, right, in the malware detection field of events, the event will come in. It is timestamped, as well as Flowmon has translated some of the details of that event that you've seen in the previous screen into the Veeam console, right? So the backup admin now, maybe they don't have direct access to the Flowmon tool. Maybe the security team owns Flowmon. But with this direct access, you have key insights into the details of the actual attack, and the backup admin can make a decision. Of course, we don't want them to work in a siloed environment. They want them to work with the security teams, but nevertheless, we've equipped them to do so, right? And then lastly here, you'll see for that specific device, going forward, we know and have tagged the known backups, right, from a timestamp perspective that have the malicious traffic in it. And you can see now you have a number of healthy backups that were that are tagged here, and so the backup admin knows where they can restore from. All right, so that was the 10,000-foot overview of the Foam plus Veeam integration set and our ability to kind of maximize data security and data resilience. And if you would like to know any more information, please reach out. My email is frank.cotto@progress.com. We'd be happy to chat more with you. Reach out to whoever your contact points are for this the hackathon, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frank. We had a question from Shali. I hope I pronounce it correctly again in the chat. Do you support vCloud Director environments?
Yes, so I could be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure that vCloud Director environments are based upon VMware ESXi, obviously hosted from a cloud perspective, so the answer would be yes. I'll look into that and just we'll provide a little bit more around that, but I'm almost positive the answer is yes. At the end of the day, we're a network monitoring tool, so if you can mirror the packets in an environment to our probe deployed as virtual hardware cloud and coming as a container, right, then we can work there. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. Yeah, I think that concludes our sponsor section for Progress Software. And we'll continue with the next section that should have been presentations from the teams, but unfortunately, we have tried to communicate with each team and we were not able to get anyone to come forward to have a small talk about their project. So we will continue now with our quiz. Everybody can join, so even our sponsors, except for us organizers, for obvious reasons. So it's time for everybody to grab their phone or go to the Kahoot website and start your Kahoot and join with this game pin. So you can go to kahoot.it or download the Kahoot app on your phone and use this pin code 1732695 to join the quiz. Join now. Hackathon. Oh dear, who is Hackathon? Oh, that will be fun. So Jeffy, if you're still listening, you can join as well. Did you start it?
Hang on. I did not start it.
Thank you, Shane. Well, this is the first question. This is not.
Yeah, let me see if I can't close out of this and restart it for people. It should not have started on its own. Okay, let's just.
I think everybody needs to rejoin again.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah. I'm really sorry about this. There was some weird thing going on. The new pin now is 4176861. 2.0. I think Jeff joined. Bill Gates, oh dear Lord. Okay, let me see. There are 12 people here in the call right now, and we have how many people? 7. So we are missing 5 of you. I want to wait 1 more minute before we start the quiz. Is that okay?
Works for me. I'm just not familiar with GoToMeet. I'm over here poking around, seeing if I can somehow get this fun lobby music to come across with the screen share.
Yeah, apparently not. So yeah.
Yeah, it didn't give me an option to share audio with my screen, like things like Teams do.
Yeah. So everybody just listen to the Kahoot sound in your mind. I think everybody knows it. Yeah, Jonah, I think we are here. I'm sorry, Jeff. I think we can start right now. So the second annual Veeam Community Hackathon halftime show extravaganza. Let's start with the first question. The first question is, what does UTB stand for? We just heard that one. So out of the box immutability, outstanding option to backup information, out of this box immutability, or ostensibly outstanding terrific backup infrastructure. And obviously it's out of the box immutability. 4 people had it correct and 2 used out of this box immutability.
I read it wrong.
That can happen.
Gotcha.
That can happen. So Charlie is on number 1 right now. So good job. Next question. When did the Veeam logo go to uniform capitalization? Was that in 2023, 2027, sorry, 2017, 2009, or 2015? Everybody answered it's 2023 with the latest logo. So let's see. Charlie is still on top, and Jeff or not is rising. Let's see. Who has the most amazing office people? Is that Safia Mohammed, Jonah May, Rick Vanover, or Ratmir Timashev? I hope I pronounced it correctly. Yeah, obviously that can only be one Rick Vanover. But yeah, Safia and Jonah.
I do appreciate the vote of confidence. The picture on screen was a little bit of a cheat sheet though, not because it's not my background.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Well, Charlie is on a roll, people. We need to beat him. Come on, people, answer quicker. Answer quickly. So the 2 in the 32110 rule stands for 2 different types of media, 2 immutable backups, 2 backup softwares, or 2 copies of your data. Yes, that's 2 different types of media correctly. Almost everybody had it correct.
And the
Still,
lead
Charlie.
continues.
Yeah. Let's see, next question. What's the primary benefit of integrating Flowmon with Veeam? Improved network visibility and security, better financial forecasting, increased employee engagement, or, oh, well, everybody answered already. That was fast. Yeah, Charlie again. Still on top. The godfather of Veeam backup or application is Guru, Anton Kostev, Anthony Spiteri, or Vanny Vanguard. Yeah, everybody knows this, right? Anton Kostev is the godfather. Still no change in scoreboard. What year were the Veeam Vanguards founded? 2012, 2013, 2014, or 2015? It's 2015, that's correct. Good job, everyone.
That gap's slowly closing.
Yeah, Charlie, you need to answer quickly. What day is World Backup Day? Is that February 29th, October 15, March 31st, or September 28th? That's March 31st, yes. Oh, look at that. Look at 2.0 rise to the top right now, and it beats Chalit from #1 spot right now. It's getting more and more excited. What's the best storage for Veeam trademark? Is that A Vault, Storage Locker, Object First, or Backup Drive? Yeah, that can only be Object First, that's correct. In this case. Logo gave it away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Luca is still on top. There's only a 500 points difference between them. Which of these are Wasabi's security features? All of the above: multi-factor authentication, immutability with object lock, or multi-user authentication? Yes, all of the above. That's correct. The gap is close, people. Okay. What is one of the key features of Flowmon's network detection response? Is that gathering marketing response, managing employee schedules, manual data entry for network logs, or real-time detection providing information for remediation? Yes, that's the correct one. I don't even have time to read out all the answers, right?
Yeah.
So, oh, still close gap. Okay, question number 12. The mascot for the Veeam community is called, is that Albert, Cedric the Cyber Dragon, Alfred, or Vanny? And it's Alfred and not Albert. It's really close. The fun fact that Albert was the first name that they decided, if they thought up for Alfred, but it became Alfred later on. And Vanny is the
for the
mascot
Vanguards.
for the Vanguard, indeed. So let's see what it does to the scoreboard. Jeff Lay has risen a bit. Which of these is not a Veeam product? Is that Veeam Backup for Google Workspace, Veeam Agent for Solaris, Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, or Veeam Backup for AWS? And that is Veeam Backup for Google Workspace. There is actually a Veeam Agent for Solaris, but there is no backup for Google Workspace. Oh, look at that. Luca has been kicked off the #1 spot. Okay, question 14. Veeam Backup for Microsoft Office 365 version 1 was released in the year 2017, 2015, 2014, or 2016? That was 2016, people. Nobody got it correct, unfortunately, but it was 2016. So no change on the scoreboard. True or false? Veeam Fast SCP was created for file copy between Linux hosts. True or false? That is false. It was created for copying between ESXi hosts. And vMaster is now our #1. Look at that. What year was the first Veeam Community Hackathon hosted? Was that 2019, 2023, 2021, or 2025? Yeah, that was last year, 2020.
I thought it was
That's an easy one.
2025.
Sorry?
I thought it was 2025.
Yeah. vMaster is still our #1. And Veeam Backup for Proxmox was first showcased at VeeamON in Las Vegas, Nevada, New Orleans, Louisiana, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or Miami, Florida. Yeah, Fort Lauderdale this year at VeeamON. There you are, Lucas, you're back on top. Good job. Which of these does not have a Veeam Backup for Cloud solution? Google Cloud, Azure, IBM Cloud, or AWS? That is IBM Cloud. There is a Veeam Backup for Google Cloud. There is no Veeam Backup.
You can back up you can back up IBM Cloud with Veeam Backup and Replication, but there's not a dedicated Veeam Backup for appliance for IBM
Correct.
Cloud.
So let's see what they did to the scoreboard. Lucas is still on #1. Charlie again is rising. Great job, everyone. Yep. On what day was Veeam Fast SCP for VMware ESXi first announced? This is a hard one, I think. February.
I think this was
October 10th. Yes, that's a really important date because I think that was one of the first things that was announced at VMworld.
Yeah, I think
If I
Breakage
remember
Fund
correctly.
helped with this question.
Yeah. Jeff or not is rising. There were only 2 answers, and Jeff late rise as well. So I don't know which Jeff is Jeff, and if there is a Jeff, or if it's all Inception and no Jeff. Quiz. Yara stands for, is that yet another ransomware attack, yet another recursive anagram, yet another ridiculous anagram, yet another redundancy application, yet another recovery agent, or Young Australian Readers Award? It's yet another recursive anagram. However, there is a YARA that stands for Young Australian Readers Award, but in this case, it's yet another recursive algorithm. And Jeff or not is still on top. So Radmir Timashev and who co-founded Veeam in 2016? Is that Andrei Baranov, Rick Vanover, Anand Ezran, or Anton Gostev? And that's indeed Andrei Baranov. Baranov, yeah. So Jeff or not is still on top. And let's see what the next question is. When was Hyper-V support added in Veeam Backup or Replication? Was that version 8, version 7, version 6, or version 9? That was version 6. And only one person had that correct. So let's see what that does to the scoreboard. Nothing, unfortunately. So next question, the quiz. The first Veeam office was opened in Czech Republic, Russia, Switzerland, or the United States? With a beautiful logo of the Ohio office on the outside. Indeed, it is Russia, but long gone from Russia.
That logo is still there though, because that's on the Columbus, Ohio office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of these is not a Veeam community program? The MVPs, the Vanguards, the Aces, or the Legends? It's the Aces. There is the Veeam MVP program. That's the program that is for everybody who is an employee of Veeam and has done an outstanding job in community promotion.
There are ACEs, but they're the object first ACEs.
That's correct, but it's not a Veeam community program. So Jeff or not is still on top. Let's
Second
see
to
if
last question.
yeah, sure backup is storing your backups on an immutable target, storing your backups in a hardened target, automated testing of your backups to ensure successful restore, or automated scanning of your backups for malware. Yes, everybody had that correct. Automated testing of your backups to ensure a successful restore, but it can scan as well.
And now for the final question.
Let's see if Lucas can kick him out. Combined with Veeam, Wasabi helps you ensure you're meeting which number of the 3 to 110 rule? 3 copies of your data, 0, no or errors or failures, 10, at least one offline air gap or immutable plus no errors or failures, or one of which is offline air gap or immutable. And indeed, it's the one of which is offline air gap or immutable. Oh, this question, it can be everything on the scoreboard right now because there's 3 correct answers and 4 incorrect, so it can't go anywhere. Let's see what is going on here. Okay, on the 3rd place, we have Jeff Lay, 19 out of 26 questions. Lucas with 20 out of 26, and on number 1 with also 20 out of 26, Jeff or not. Congratulations. If the person who identifies at Kahoot as Jeff or not would like to, oh, that's him? Okay, him. Thank you very much and congratulations. So, thank you everyone for joining this quiz. But everyone, well done. It was really fun. Yeah, it was really fun. Are there currently any questions? Either for one of the sponsors or maybe for the hackathon organizers? Maybe I'm putting you on the spot right now, but Ian responded in chat that he is able to do something for a quick demo. Are you still able to do so? I see that you're in chat. Please send a message in chat if you are able to do so, either Discord or in GoToMeeting. He needs a few minutes. How can we fill up a few minutes, Jonah?
Good question.
Yeah. So what can we do? Let me think real quick.
Well, I will say it is interesting how the 2 most active teams have landed on pretty similar concepts, though they went about approaching them in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, last year we saw a large diversity of projects. People worked across different products and came up with unique solutions. This year, it seems like those 2 teams are really focused on kind of monitoring and better visibility into the Veeam environment. So
yeah,
Ian, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a moment when he's ready, but it looks like one team chose to focus on Veeam 1 for that, while the other team chose to focus on Veeam Service Provider Console as their main source of data.
Yeah. And Shalit, no, we are not going to do a TikTok dance, or Ian, we are not going to sing. I'm sorry. YouTube, when we put it up, will claim copyright if you do that. So we're not doing that.
You know what? It probably is a good thing that I couldn't share the Kahoot audio because they might have copyright striked us for it. Come to think of it.
Does anybody know good data recovery jokes? Ooh.
Well, one could say we should have been better prepared with backups to fill time in this call.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Ian, are you about ready?
Should have asked the boss. Where are my backups?
Yeah. Almost ready. Okay.
This is where if I could figure out how to stream audio, I'd be playing the Jeopardy theme for us right now.
No, don't, because we will have another copyright.
Well, again, I don't even know how to stream the audio, so.
Yeah, let's not go there. Had to reclone repository. Okay. So should we make you a presenter already quick? I think that's fine, right? Feel free to turn on camera and microphone as well. Yeah, we put the team on the spot, so I'm really sorry about doing that, but I really hope that you can show off a little bit. But yeah, it is
Notes
what it
for us
is.
for next year.
Yeah, indeed.
Pre-communicate that.
Yeah. If there's someone from team 2 in chat that still wants to do something, then that's fine as well. Okay, just about ready. I'll make you a presenter then.
Yep, and while we get that set up for future years, if anyone knows a good way to stream audio and video for something like this into Discord, please reach out to us because it would be awesome if we could bring the entirety of the event into Discord instead of having you guys jump back and forth between Discord and GoToMeet.
Ian, you're a presenter, so feel free to enable your camera and start chatting or start your audio when you're ready. So, think, yeah. No. So I'll give you another minute, and if you're not ready by a minute, then I think we'll just have to end the call. Unfortunately. Okay, thank you very much, Ian, and congrats again. Okay. Since your emulator is not starting up, Ian, I think it might be a good idea to end the call then. Unfortunately, and give everybody the rest of the evening or their day to do the work on the hackathon project. I want to thank everybody who joined. I want to thank our sponsors again. And this will conclude our meeting. Thank you very much.